Quick thought on my mind today as I'm trying to record a video of some sort. There's this idea that I've had and I've wrote about a slight bit that I think consciousness is a plaguing corruption on us. That it has given us this ugly sense of being higher beings on planet Earth. Just to quickly lay out like my thoughts and views, personally I'm not religious, so I don't necessarily, I'm not saying that I'm an atheist. I'm saying I'm pretty agnostic in the sense that I don't know, and I'm not going to claim I know. I'm a philosopher at heart. I'm not going to argue for sure that I know something when I can't prove it or disprove it. But also, so I'm not really religious, and I think that we have given like the words morality and justice and virtues and ethics and piety, impiety, good, bad, all these things aren't objective. Okay, and they are impossible to be objective in a sense that we have given them meaning. The state has given rights, meaning that's when you get rights. It's not because you have inherent rights. We don't have human rights. We have state given rights. You can try to argue and say, well, I think we should have rights based on the fact that we're humans. That's fine, but we don't. I don't get born with those rights until someone actualizes them with the defense of those rights. But that being said, all those words and those ideas of rights, morality, all that is the functioning noble lie of consciousness. Consciousness has given us that, and that creates the protection from ourselves, not from any other animals. The fallacy in the noble lie and what conscious does is actually protects us from anarchy, which would be hell on earth, because humans are crazy, and it's given us this idea that we're better than that, right? We are not these animalistic beings. Like we can be clean and proper and suffice and like have like structure and order, and we're not like bears and wolves and all these other wild animals. Let them go be wild. We'll create society and art and culture and everything. And we won't, you know, stab and shoot each other, even though we still do. We won't steal and pickpocket, and we won't drown each other. Anything crazy is kind of getting semi barred from this noble lie. What I mean by a noble lie is, if you know or if you've ever read The Republic by Plato, they kind of get into it a little bit with the just city. And where they take this idea is how I perceive it, and why I get so annoyed with the word justice and injustice, especially how Socrates puts it and or tries to articulate the definition of it, is that it's how it comes off to me. I might be wrong, but justice is almost not an actuality without an injustice to create that justice. Like the justice of the just city, which is what they're trying to posit and create, is basically this idea that the auxiliaries, right, like the standing militia, has to be stripped from some freedoms. We can't let them sit there and read Homer and the poets, because if they do, then they won't do their jobs. We can't let them have private property, because if they do, they'll want to defend it more. They'll be more of the commoners who aren't focused and worrying about the city's sake. They're worrying about themselves' sake, their selves' own sake, right? That is like, so some people have to take an L, if you will. Also, people are born with an inherent factor. They're gold, metal, bronze souls. Funny enough, the philosopher himself, Socrates, who articulates he wouldn't want to be a philosopher king, but he sets the standard that philosophers are the only people that can set a true standard of living. Now, this comes from a very different period of time, and that, people understood in a sense that people needed to understand what they're doing to get jobs. Like, that's the problem Socrates has with democracy. Democracy in itself is kind of a failure, and you kind of do see it actually happening in real time. I don't want to get too political, but people like commoners like us, if we all are the voting base and we don't know our civil liberties and how anything functions in a society, why are we voting? Why do we get to vote? We don't have no idea how to operate a society. Why are we voting? It needs to be people that understand the government. But then you run into corruption factors. I totally understand. The point though is Socrates argues this with an analogy to a boat captain. There's a boat captain, right? And do you want a boat captain that doesn't know how to put a crew together? Right? Are you ever getting on that boat that doesn't know how to, he doesn't know how to be a captain and lead, doesn't know how to put a crew together, doesn't know how to sail himself, doesn't know how to get people there safe? Absolutely not. You're never getting on that boat. Why are we getting on a boat, on a political boat, when we don't know how to function and when we don't know how to operate it ourselves? But we, the people, it is us, the people in America, that dictate it. We do make the choice. Like, what you can say, like, your vote doesn't matter all you want, but it absolutely does. If everyone said their vote didn't matter and no one voted, what would happen? We have no fucking clue. All right, I digress. Where was I? It's conscious. But in the Republic, the noble lie, there it is. The noble lie. I think that consciousness creates that. Consciousness kind of gives us that the creation of the noble lie. Consciousness gives us that defense from each other, from horrific things. Even though they still occur, it would be at a larger basis if consciousness didn't do that. So in a sense, it's like a weird conundrum in my head at the moment where, like, I think consciousness is a corruption, but it's the necessary evil. Not really, I don't want to call it an evil, but like, it's a necessary burden we must carry to further ourselves as a people. I think it's like the thing that must happen for evolution to occur at a higher process, and for us to navigate the stars or whatever it is, whatever us humans think we need to do. I don't really know yet. I don't think any of us know, but a lot of us like to argue and think that we know, just to find out that we're all idiots floating around in space-time. And I don't want to get too into the weeds, and I'm not very nihilistic yet, but Friedrich Nietzsche is more of the meaningless nihilism. I'm more of the optimistic nihilism, where I think there can still be meaning and stuff. I just think that none of it matters, but you can still find your own personal enjoyments. I don't know. These are my rambling thoughts. I have a couple ideas for videos, and I want to put more out specifically on philosophy, and maybe more detailed into conscious or human rights or the just city, and what I don't like about Socrates, what I do like about him, what I don't like about Kant. Immanuel Kant's one of my goats, but there's a lot of issues with the categorical imperative. That's another thing. I'll ramble some more. There's another issue with philosophy is I think a lot of people look at it like, well, I have to look at Kant, and if I agree with Kant, I have to have Kantian ways across the board. I have to look at every situation like that, and I have to make sure I'm forcing myself to think like that. It's not true. The way to properly analyze the world is you're going to have to use different things. You're going to have to think of Jeremy Bentham sometimes. You're going to have to think of the social contract theory. In a sense, that's the state, right? Thomas Hobbes, the Leviathan. Like, we are born into a society that's granting us these things. We kind of like shake hands before in the ether that we are going to be okay. That if I'm a good Samaritan, I will be protected by my laws and my constituents, right? That doesn't happen all the time, because sometimes you're born in North Korea or you're born in the year 800. It's unfortunate. I don't know what to tell you, but if you're born in America in today's age, you're going to get rights. If you're born in Germany, you're going to get rights. If you're born in Japan, you're going to get rights. Some variation of rights. Even in Russia. I'm done. It's about 10 minutes of ranting. I'll see if this even gets uploaded.